Ozonics Killowitz podcast back again. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
I am trying to get back in the swing of things. I was on vacation.
Yep.
I took a little PTO.
Yep.
Took a little time off.
It was a weird week.
Yeah. We're grinding through a Monday right now.
Yep.
And this episode airs on a Monday. So we're doing it together.
Yep. We're really just grinding.
Yep.
Feels good though.
Yep.
Had a good weekend, went home. It was good. Saw the family. Played a little golf. Can't beat it.
You and golfing. I never knew you liked golfing so much.
Well, yeah, it's been helping because I've just been sulking still
Yeah.
about the recent news.
So that's part of what we're going to talk about today. We kind of have two subjects that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, we're just going to talk a little bit about gear. Kind of a little bit of like a Q&A.
Yeah,
I guess you could say. A little rapid fire about arrow setups. We're going to talk about broadheads. We're going to talk about camo.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about types of gear that you probably want to be thinking about in the summertime and not try to get into middle of October and then all of a sudden go,
oh crap.
Dang, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Or, I was going to get this and I forgot.
Yeah.
Which I think we all do too. That happens. We hear that at Ozonics all the time. Guys call and say, I needed this yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is great. Yeah. But, and then the other part we're going to talk about is which is more of the sad thing.
Yeah.
Is post no trail cameras on public land.
Yeah.
How that's affecting what we do and how we're going to start and how we can do things differently.
Yeah,
or go back to the way we did it before.
Yeah. Just how like our kind of plan and strategy changes for the summer. You know, it's a completely different look than last year. So just going to talk about kind of how we're going to go about things. And it's funny too, because like we've talked about gear a lot, but I don't think we've ever done one like this.
Well, and part of the reason that I was honestly and I still am a little hesitant about doing this one.
Yeah.
Is because it's just so much based on
your preference,
personal preference, your own opinion.
Yeah.
Again, I come from the perspective of I shot a compound bow a long time ago, and then I shot a recurve bow for a long time. And shooting traditional, shooting a recurve bow, and shooting less weight, it's all, your arrow is always important. It's not really the bow that's killing the deer; it's the arrow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, in traditional bow hunting, your arrow becomes the most important part. You know what I mean? Because again, you're just not shooting as much horsepower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the bow is just not shooting as fast. There are disadvantages, and so arrow weight and broadhead design and all that type of stuff, and it really becomes a huge thing. And so. But there's a million different ways to do it in that regard too.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, and I guess I go into this conversation knowing that there are, there's guys like Edward Ashby and guys, some people have probably never even heard of that guy. You know what I mean? That, and there's a lot of different people that have been building broadheads for a long time that know a lot more about it than I do.
Yeah.
But again, so I think the caveat in this conversation is this is just our opinion, our perspective. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to try to say it as objectively as I can,
right?
Based around my experiences. That's I think sometimes what kind of like frustrates me is, and I was this guy too a long time ago. You know what I mean? Especially as a traditional bow hunter, I was like, this is how it is. This is the way you have to do it. If you're not doing it this way, you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's not exactly how it is.
No, there's a lot of ways to do it.
There's a lot of different ways to do it.
Yep.
So I feel like just going to try to give my perspective and my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Take it for what's worth. You can do what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's why it's a good conversation piece too.
Yeah.
Honestly. Because I'm sure there's probably going to be some things that we differ on. Yeah. I know there's one big one right now. But I'm still in the works with it. We'll get to it.
Let's just start out with that one now.
Okay. All right. Single pin versus 3-pin. Or multi-pin.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say a 3-pin. I would say a single pin versus a multi-pin.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my 2 cents on that. I think first off, it comes down to where and what you're hunting.
Yep.
Okay. So for example, when I used to work in Colorado as a hunting guide, we would always talk to guys about before they came, what are you shooting for a site? And especially for an example, elk hunting or any type of hunting where an animal may be walking in, you know what I mean? Where movement, if you're eye level, where movement can be a real issue, you know what I mean? A single pin sight can be really, really tricky.
Yeah.
You know, whenever guys came with single pin sights for elk, I was always just like, oh man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times with elk, you're just standing there up against a tree. You're having to hold really, really still. And so the nice thing about a multi-pin sight is you can have like a 20, 30, 40
Yeah.
or a, or a 5-pin, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 or whatever. You can have multiple pins where you've already ranged everything before that elk walked in, hopefully, and you go, okay, that's 20, there's 40, that's 60, and you know that when he comes in, all I have to do go, okay, that's he walks behind that tree, that's 20. I go to my 20 pin and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
That's where a multi-pin can be really, really handy. So again, for Western hunting, but again, there's guys that love single pins on Western hunts, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Like I said, my experience when I had guys that would come and had single pin sights, it was always a big juggling act.
Kind of a
Because
racket.
you've got your bow in one hand and you've got your release in the other, or maybe you're picking up your rangefinder when all of a sudden now you have to reach around and adjust your sight on top of it.
Yeah.
If it's not standing right at 20.
Yeah.
Or you're trying to gap or you're trying to hold over, and it's just like it just gets real, real tricky.
Yeah.
You know? And then guys miss, and then guys wound, and then they look at me or the guide and what happened? It's like, well, no. Like, dude, you got it. That's your part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I just felt like with multi-pin sights, it was just smoother.
Yeah.
It was not that it was easier, but it was just less
It does.
to have happen.
It might not be easier, but I think it gives you a ease of mind kind of a little bit.
But again, so again, for Western hunting, I would definitely suggest a multi-pin sight.
Yeah.
Again, now for the Midwest whitetail hunter, this is where I won't say that we've had like a heated discussion on this or anything.
Yeah. No, not at
But
all.
I've done it both ways. When I first shot a compound a long time ago, I shot a single pin. And again, dude, it was funny. When I shot a single pin, I shot a Matthews Q2 XL. I bought it used at Shields, and I didn't even have a rangefinder then. You know what I mean? I didn't even own a rangefinder. I had a single pin, and it was basically like a kind of a 20 and under type deal. You know what I mean? Like I'm 39. I was in my early 20s, you know, or maybe even before that. Yeah, it was before that. Anyway, I didn't have a rangefinder, so it was just like I set it at 20 yards, and that was what I was going to shoot.
Yeah.
But now, and then again, when I shot a recurve bow, I never used rangefinder. I shot instinctively, so I just looked at what I wanted to shoot, and I didn't think about the yardage, and I just looked at it, pulled the bow back, and let it go.
Right.
Coming back to a compound again, I have shot a 3-pin. I've looked at 5 pins and things like that. To me, 5 gets way too busy.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
way too much kind of, obstructing my field of view.
Yeah.
So I like a 3-pin. I shoot 20, 30, 40. And again, I call it a 3-pin slider. So basically I shoot a 20, 30, 40, and then my bottom pin being the 40, I can slide my sight out to 100.
Yeah.
And farther if I want to, but I've got it taped to 100 and know that my arrows
We'll get there.
Yep. And again, so that's me. I shoot, my top pin is a 0.19.
Yep.
And then my second and third pin are 0.1s.
Yeah.
So they're a lot smaller. I shoot the Black Gold Pro sight.
What do you do for pin color again?
Yep. So I do, that's a great question.
I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
I go green, red, green.
Yeah, mine's green, yellow, green.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yep. Yeah, mine's green, yellow, green.
Yeah.
So with that, I would say, I like Black Gold sights. The thing about Black Gold that I felt like two things for me that really pushed me to get a black gold was I shot a spot hog before that. I shot the Fast Eddie XL.
Yeah.
Really liked that sight as well. One thing that I didn't like about that sight is that when you move the pins obviously you want them straight.
Yeah.
You follow me? But when you move them on that Fast Eddie, they actually move in a half circle.
Right.
You follow me? So instead of them just moving up and down, they move like this. So then you have to move it down, then you have to move it back to the middle. And I didn't like that.
Yeah.
What I liked about the black gold is they literally just move vertically straight up and down. So you don't have to worry about that part. Because I was like, geez, is it in the middle? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like that. And then the thing I feel like that I haven't seen anything close to it is the brightness.
Yeah.
The black gold sights are so bright that they literally, the little plastic covers that cover the fiber optic, it turns purple so it doesn't starburst because they're so bright. It's like sunglasses, right? Their pins are so bright.
Yeah, they're really good.
In low light, man, they are just bright, bright, bright.
Yep.
I love them.
Yep. And like you said too, when it's a high sunny day,
it's necking it down.
yeah, exactly.
Yep. So it's just that pin is always just super sharp.
Yeah.
It's not starbursting. It just looks like a dot.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah.
So I like a 3-pin. You know, to your point, so Nick started with a 3-pin last year. You shot a black gold.
Same exact sight as you.
Okay. You had the black gold pro sight.
Yep.
And you started with a 3-pin as well.
Yep.
You shot with a 3-pin all summer.
Yeah.
All summer, and we're shooting good with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're really shooting good with it.
Yep.
And then hunted with it a couple times last year.
Yeah.
And it all just kind of came.
Bad. It was really bad.
It just all came all came unraveled.
Hey, call a spade a spade. It was terrible.
And here's the thing. What I'm going to say right now is I think from this point forward in the discussion, I don't think that the problem, from my perspective, I don't think the problem is the sight.
Well,
The gear. I think it's the nut behind the riser. You know what I mean?
yeah, but so here's my thing. So I had shot in a single pin my whole life.
Yeah.
Now I got a 3-pin. And when I shot deer with the single pin, like I felt really good, confident. Like I didn't have any sort of target panic. Like I just draw the bow back, put it on it, and shoot. Well, now all of a sudden with 3 pins and the deer's in front of me, it's like, it's terrible. And then so
let me jump in there. So that's what I was going to say is one of the drawbacks of a multi-pin sight can be that it is a lot busier.
yeah, and
right?
Yeah.
You know, I talk about the moment of truth and everything is easy. It's funny, like I'm going to jump over a little bit here. I just purchased a really awesome long range rifle.
Yep.
And you know, as I have been looking at, you know, they taught you a lot of the research that I've been doing, reading and watching talks about that you need to build your form, build your how you shoot the gun, right? Because a lot of people just think, oh, you just buy a gun, it's going to shoot great. Well, you got to make sure that your form is good. And, you know, I saw a thing the other day, it was talking about how like this teacher was talking about like, yeah, you know, we try to get people off of their bellies because a lot of guys shoot rifles prone. And that's not always how it works out. And that really struck me because that's bow hunting. When you're shooting at the range and you're shooting your 3-pin and you're calm and we're just laughing and joking around, like it's no big deal.
Yeah.
You could even go to say, you know, 3D shoots where you shoot 3D and you're like, it's a little bit more pressure. You feel a little bit more of the excitement, but it's still not a deer in front of you.
No,
But you put a deer in front of you and you have that adrenaline dump into your veins and everything speeds up. Everything gets a little blurry. Everything gets a little more jumpy.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, for some people, a 3-pin could look like 100 pins. It looks like the pins are just going like, I don't know which one to shoot. And you're just like,
that literally explains my brain 100% when that deer was in front of me.
And here's the thing. I have felt that before too with a 3-pin.
Yeah.
And what I have taught myself to do and the kind of the mantra that I go through in the pre-shot routine, even when I'm on the range, especially when I'm hunting. I mean, a lot of the fall you had me, you know, in your ear.
Yeah.
And if I don't say it out loud, I'm thinking like, okay, 30 pin, 20
Yeah,
pin.
yeah.
Like I'm thinking, I'm saying like, okay, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's my second pin down. That's the 30. That's where I'm going to shoot him. It's the second pin. I'm telling myself that.
Yeah.
Because if I just look at the deer and then I just draw back and I'm like, "Blah," you know what I mean? It just gets it gets out of control.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but again, I like the idea of knowing that when a deer walks in, because man, I would love it if every deer just like I was sitting in my tree stand and it just walked in at 20 yards completely broadside and was at 20 right in front of me and then walked off. But it doesn't work like that.
No.
They walk in quartering to, then they may stand there, then they walk away, then they do walk perfect, then they walk away again, then they sidestep, and then you're ranging, and it's just like, and I just don't want all the movement and rigmarole. And so I just know that it's like there's 20, there's 30, there's 40.
Yeah.
But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing that to kind of pour gasoline on your fire is what also makes multi-pins tricky is if they're standing at like 25 or they're standing at 28 or 22 or 23. It's like,
I don't even want to get into that.
Yeah.
Because I struggled with that really bad last year when I was shooting 3D, like at like a 25 or like a 35-yard shot. I never was quite confident on where I should hold or what pin I should hold where, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I was always missing. I mean, I would hit the target, but not where I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that was something I was consistently working at. And then when that doe came out, or buck fawn or whatever it was at 35.
Yeah.
And so like right from the get-go, I was like, oh crap, what do I do here?
Yeah.
And then like you said too, like I held the bow up and I like was settling in on it, and it was just like
Everything was just like,
it was just so bad.
it was like a tornado of emotion,
Yeah, it was so
adrenaline, and excitement.
Yeah, so then I go and shoot my bow last week, and I go to 20 yards, and I'm just
But this is where the target panic is really sprinkling in now.
yes, because
Now you've had, well, let's just say, now you've had, so you were good with it last summer, you know what I mean? And again, you were working through how to do the whole.
Still working on it.
Still working on it. But then you had a bad experience,
Yeah.
which really cemented that in your brain hole.
100%
And then now you've stewed on it
for her.
November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. And then we're to now.
Yeah, so I went and shot last week, went to 20, and I was just dialed in. I mean, I could have. I was stacking them into like a quarter size, just hammering them in. I'm like, let's go. I'm like, I'm gonna go to 30, and I'm gonna just do the same exact thing. Draw back, holding at 30, and this is a terrible way to explain it, but it works in my brain. When I was shooting at 20, I was rocking at like an f2.8 with my focus on the pin, just real tight. I get to 30, and I'm trying to focus in on the middle, and I'm rocking at like a f13. I like just my brain and like my eyes could not focus on the middle pin like at all. I just couldn't do it. And it was like somebody just went and just took the arrows and just chucked them at the target. Like they were just scattered all over. I'm like, what the heck? So then I went to 40, didn't have a tape or anything on it or like a target to shoot at. So I just went to 50. Went to 50.
On your bottom pin
On my
slid it
bottom
down.
pin, slid it down, and just tacked them in there again. Went back to 30, same thing, just all over the place. Went back to 20, tacked them in. I'm like... And so then I saw Cole that night, and I'm like, I'm behind a single pin. He's like, no, you're going too fast. You can figure it out. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to do.
No, and listen, like, you know, I shouldn't, you know, it's funny. I don't really have a dog in the fight, right? Like, for example, Jason Mears, perfect example.
Yeah.
When we saw him this winter,
Yeah.
he really, really hammered it home
know.
for you again, because he said,
Like,
and exactly what you're dealing with, and why a lot of guys go away from a multi-pin is they're like, man, I pull the bow up and I just can't.
Yeah.
If it's on that middle pin or any of the pins, I just can't concentrate.
Yeah.
And it is the 30 pin, that middle pin is always the tricky
Tough
one.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah. But so kind of my thought process is like, well, maybe I just switch to a single pin and then just know, you know, I think I shoot a fast enough arrow to where the gapping between yardages is pretty slim to none, maybe an inch or two difference. So it's like I could probably put it at 25, be inch low at 30 yards, inch high at 20. And so then I just know, okay, I can just leave it at 25 and out to 30, I should be good. And then hopefully if I ever get a chance to shoot one past 30, which I don't even know if I would shoot one past 30. I mean, after shooting last year, I thought for sure, I'd be fine shooting that far, just because I felt like I was shooting really good. But now I'm kind of back thinking like maybe I don't, but I'm hoping if I get to that chance and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to shoot this deer at say 35 yards or whatever. Hopefully, if they're that far away, I'll have enough time to range and roll it, just with them being farther away rather than running in at 10 yards. Which,
Yeah.
if that happens, I can just draw back and hold it on there and shoot.
Basically, you're, and I know this is gonna make you mad, but you're going right back into your Nick hot messness.
This is just the stuff that's just been just stewing in my brain for the last week.
I'll tell you what. I don't know why this has come up a lot, but there's obsessive and there's compulsive and there's obsessive compulsive. For the most part, I think you're very compulsive. I think I am very obsessive.
Yeah.
But then every once in a while on certain things, your brain just really hammers both. And this is one of where you're being very obsessive and compulsive.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because then I'm like, okay, well, if I get a single pin, do I get a 0.19 or do I get a 0.1? And I asked Cole that, and he just looks at me and just started laughing.
I know I did.
I'm like, shoot. I'm like, I just got to chill out for a second.
Yeah, you need to just take a deep breath and like count to 100.
But it's like to the point where I feel like I should probably make a decision here pretty soon because
It's already June.
it's already June and I don't want to shoot the whole summer with a 3-pin and then in September be like, yeah, I'm just going to switch to a single pin.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't work very good that way. So, but yeah, so that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky thing. Like I said, I
Yeah.
mean, again, at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And like I do understand, like I want a 3-pin to work out really, really good because I really like the idea of just not have to worry about doing anything with your sight or anything. You can just range, pull up, and just know what pin. But if it's gonna cause me to have really bad target panic, I think out of respect to the animal, it's probably smart to go back to something that I'm a little bit more comfortable with.
The biggest thing I would say, and this again just comes from my own experience, if you have target panic now, and if you think that switching is going to make the target panic go away, target panic's like a monster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a monster that's in the water.
Yeah.
And that monster is, he's out of the water right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like Rush.
Yeah. My little boy Rush around to
He just runs around and just yells at you.
yeah, like a little dinosaur. But target panic's like a monster, and right now his head is rearing out of the water.
Yeah.
And if you think that switch to a single is going to make the monster go away, no, he's just going to go back down in the water.
Yeah.
He's still down there, man.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that I think you need to work on addressing the target panic.
Yeah.
Because I think inevitably, whether it's a 3-pin or a single pin, I think that monster will rear its head again, and then you're going to be in a real tornado of what to do.
Well, I just hate it because I never had it before.
Everybody gets it. The thing is, dude, here's the biggest thing I would say. And again, I'm being very critical, and I appreciate you being so open about it and talking about it. Dude, I'll tell you what though, man, a lot of people, target panic is like the yips.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why most people, that's what it is, right? That's what it is in golf, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, look at Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods has had the yips last couple of years.
Yeah.
You've seen him trying to hit some chips where he just couldn't do it, and so, but I think a lot of people just act like they don't have target panic when they very clearly have target panic. I struggle with target panic.
Yeah.
I struggle with target panic. I never struggled with it before when I shot a compound, when I started shooting a recurve and I had to draw the bow back, anchor in, and then let go. That's where target panic started setting with me, where all of a sudden I would, I would draw it back and I just let it go. You know what I mean? I would like pluck the string. I would just kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't really draw back, anchor in the best I could, and then let it go. I would just, as soon as I hit my mark, I'd let it go.
Yeah.
Because my brain was just, and I felt that with my compound bow. One of the things that I do is I try, when it really comes down to it, and I draw my bow back, the last thought that's in my head is one more second.
Yeah.
I draw my bow, one more second.
Yeah.
Put that arrow, put that pin, one more second. Because the target panic in my brain wants to just let it go. You know what I mean? And so I think it's good that you're trying to talk about it and try to address it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was taught years and years ago was if you're like when you're at the range and you're trying to shoot, like even like when you're when you're at the range right now, and like one of the things that you could try, which it sounds like you're committed to a single pin, so go that route.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I would suggest doing is like, say you go to the range tomorrow or today and don't even shoot at 20, don't shoot anything over with your bottom, just go to 30.
Yeah.
And when you stand up there, you have to choose to let the arrow go.
Yeah.
You have to decide, not your brain, not your body, you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It sounds weird to say your body and your brain is separate from you, but you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like you have to control it. You have to decide.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is like when you draw that bow back at 30 and you settle in and all of a sudden you're just seeing all this stuff going on, you need to decide. So you need to say, okay, you know what, brain and body, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
Let the bow down, unhook unhook your release and stand there and go, okay, we're going to do this again. And I'm not letting the arrow go until that 30 is where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Because when you just pull it back and you just go like this and you let it go,
Yeah, exactly.
you're solidifying and you're cementing that target panic even more.
Mm-hmm.
It's controlling you. You're not controlling it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. 100%. And that's exactly how it
And
is.
You've seen me times when I'm out there when I'll draw back and if that wind gets me going,
Yeah.
you know, like I don't shoot any stabilizers and
Yeah.
my bow is like I have the titanium upgrade stuff
Yeah,
from
it's
Dorge
light.
and it's light. It's
Yeah.
pretty light. And so when I draw the bow back, like if it's a real windy day, like it'll push me
Mm-hmm.
and you've seen me let it back down. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Because that just gets that going in my brain. And I don't want that. I don't want it to feel like that. Whenever I draw the bow back, I have to let it go. You don't have to let it go.
Yeah, exactly.
You can let it down.
Yeah.
You don't have to let it go. Just let it down.
Yeah. And that's exactly it too. Like I noticed like at 20 and then when I shot at 50, like I was settling in, pulling through the shot really, really good. But then at 30, it was very punchy. Like I would get to a point where it's like, okay, it's on it, shoot.
Yeah.
You know? Like,
And that's target panic.
yeah. It's just,
Yep.
oh, man,
And when you get to that, you have to go, you know what? I'm not doing that. I'm
Yeah.
not going to punch it.
Yeah.
If I'm not going to make a good shot, then I'm not going to shoot.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, brain. Sorry, body. You're not, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
It sounds really weird to say, but that's how I work through it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
You know? No, dude, listen, and here's the thing. Maybe the single pin will take care of it, but I still think that there's, and inevitably, if you shoot bow and arrow long enough, target panic will come
Yeah.
to you. You
Yeah,
know what
exactly.
I mean? And a lot of people deal with it and they don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's tough for me because I felt like I normally did have a pretty good mental headspace, like drawing back and shooting a deer, which obviously you probably don't believe just because of what you've seen over the
Oh
last
no,
year.
dude. Listen,
But like the
no,
last
hey, before you say any more, I understand where you're coming
Yeah.
from. Listen, dude, if you bow hunt long enough, you're gonna miss.
Yeah.
If you bow hunt long enough,
Yeah.
you're gonna wound something.
Yeah.
If guys say they've never missed or wounded, they are lying.
Yeah.
It's just the way that it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you hunt every single day of the season and shoot every day of the
yeah.
year.
Oh yeah.
Just things go wrong.
Yeah.
You know, like we're not perfect. You know, like honestly, dude, I think there's a lot of similarities between golf and bow hunting.
Yeah, there is.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man. This has been years ago. I was watching just random golf on TV, and sometimes now lately you can hear the caddy and the golfer talking,
Yeah.
and it's only certain golfers and caddies, like ones that are going to drop the F-bomb
Yeah,
all the time.
yeah.
But this caddy was talking to the golfer, and he was saying they were talking about the shot and where he was trying to aim and the distance and the yardage, and right at the end he said, be committed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, and you hear a lot of these golfers talking about that they have to be committed to the shot. You really have to be committed, because if your brain isn't 100% committed to the shot and it's thinking about other things,
Right.
target panic.
Yeah.
It settles in.
Yeah.
You know, I was watching, they were talking about the Masters a while back, and they were these golf analysts were talking about these guys standing behind the golf ball, and man, like for example, Xander Schauffele,
Yeah.
man, he stands behind that thing for a while.
Yeah.
Like I counted like 10 seconds. He just stands there and just wiggles it
Yeah.
and waggles and he kind of, oh, no, not yet.
Yeah.
It's just, there's all these thoughts going through their head. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's bow hunting.
Yeah.
You draw your bow back, you get all this stuff going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
No, it's actually really funny that you say that, because this last weekend when we were playing golf, it was really wet out. And I don't have golf shoes right now because the last time I wore them, I dropped a sandwich on them and then just covered them in Dijon mustard. So I'm just wearing my tennis shoes right now. but it was really wet. And on the 15th hole, I was teeing off, and I swung, and my foot slipped really, really bad. It kind of freaked me out a little bit just because I almost fell over. Well, like the next 3 shots, I almost missed the ball. It was just in my head, like constantly.
Oh, yeah.
Like hard. Like, I mean, that's target panic. Like I was thinking about that one wrong thing, and it just would not leave my brain until about hole 16. Just hit a great shot. But that's whatever.
But no, man, like I said, so to get back to what you were saying ago when I interrupted you, everybody misses everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody wounds stuff. Everybody, just you sit there and go, man, what happened there?
Yeah.
That's just part of it, But I think everything that you're talking about is just trying to figure out ways to get yourself in the right headspace, mentally, physically, so that way when that time comes, you can make it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we should probably move on from the subject.
Yeah. But again, so if you end up with a single pin, that sounds fine.
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, if it were me in a single pin, I would probably just do the 0.19.
Yeah.
Because you're already shooting your 20 pin at 0.19.
Yeah.
A 0.1, I mean, you could do that. But again, one of the things that's a drawback about a 0.1 compared to a 0.19 is that 0.1 is just that much smaller and that much less light.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that can get a little tricky.
Yeah. The only reason I was kind of considering a 0.1 is like when you're filming, you already lose kind of the last couple minutes of the day. So it's like, are you really going to be able to? Is having that extra light in the 0.19 really worth it when you could be more precise?
Yeah, and not only that, and the other thing to play devil's advocate to what I just said is, you're not just shooting the 20 to 20. You could be shooting that 20 out to 40, 50. And 50 with a 0.19, it just looks a lot bigger.
Yeah,
it covers
exactly.
up a lot more.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, you could go with a 0.1.
Yeah. Yeah. Something to think about.
But then again, to go back to what you said a minute ago, you made it sound like you're probably not going to shoot over 30 anyway.
Yeah, well, not in the field, but in the summer I still will and stuff shooting 3D,
Yeah.
But I don't know, something to think about. That one I'm not stressing too much about.
See, the
Anyways.
other option I said is just get a 2-pin
Yeah, I could do that.
because they make a vertical 2-pin.
Yeah. The only thing I don't like about the vertical 2-pin is I don't like having the bottom pin on the same axis as the whole entire verticalness. I don't know how to say it, but
I think you said it completely perfect.
But you know what I mean, though? Like, I feel like that would be weird to have it.
I've never heard verticalness. It's like constant motion.
Excuse me.
So you were talking about the verticalness
Yeah, so you have the top pin
of the constant motion.
and then the middle pin here, or
Yeah.
the bottom pin.
Uh-huh.
I feel like that would be weird looking at the deer with it covered up on the top and the bottom, kind of. You know what I'm trying to say?
Under and over, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, because like a 2-pin or a 3-pin, there's a space between
There's
that you
still
can
space,
see.
yeah.
But with that, it's covered up.
Yeah. I feel like I wouldn't like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would like that either.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be kind of...
Do they sell a 2-pin horizontal?
Black Gold doesn't.
I don't know why you just don't take your 3-pin and just yank out the bottom or the middle, and then just boom, now you got a 2-pin.
Nah, I don't want to do that.
Or just take your single and then move your second, third out of the way. Just slide them all the way down.
No, it's just wasted space then. Yeah. But no, I think what I will do, though, is I'll probably just keep that 3-pin.
So when a year from now you
Yeah, I'd have options then.
go back to it.
Yeah, because my guess is next year at this time we'll be having this exact same conversation, probably. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but like you said, it is what it is. Like I said, and here's the thing. Whatever makes you shoot better,
Yeah.
like you said, I mean, it's no different than, again, we talk about golfing. I was talking to a guy the other day that was looking at buying a new driver.
Yeah.
Buy a new driver, huh? Yeah, I just tailor-made, I just can't hit it good. I'm just not. Or he said something like, I just hit it out or something. I've hit
yeah.
it too much. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I don't think that's possible, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, not a world long drive champion or anything, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
Whatever makes you sleep at night.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's move on. What else do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about fixed versus mechanical.
Okay. Again,
I think this one's kind of easy.
I'll let you go first then.
I think mechanical. I just like the cutting of it. I think that it's just, yeah. So
It's so funny how when you talk, it's like I wish I could be so concise with what I wanted to say. I have to give like a 20-minute spiel.
that is very true.
And you can say something in like 5 seconds.
That is very true. I'm quick to the punch.
Yeah. No. All right. So where I'm at on that is, again, this comes from my own experiences, not only as just a hunter myself, but also as a guide. I think it depends on the animal.
Yeah.
And again, I think that this also can be one of those things where there's been a lot of people that have killed mechanicals with on a whole bunch of different North American big game animals and had great luck with it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I personally will not shoot anything bigger than an elk with a mechanical broadhead.
Yeah.
That's just me. So like elk or moose, that type of stuff, a bison, I don't feel comfortable with mechanical broadheads on that stuff.
Yeah.
I like what and how fixed blade broadheads perform in those situations.
Yeah.
When it comes to mechanicals for deer size animals, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Which is funny. I used to not be that way. I
Yeah.
used to be again, traditional bow hunter. So I was a 2-blade with a bleeder. I used to shoot what they called the Muzzy Phantom, which was a 2-blade broadhead with a bleeder blade.
Mm-hmm.
When I've gone back to a compound now, at first I was shooting something very similar to that. It was a 2-blade with a bleeder.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm shooting mechanical broadheads. I first switched to mechanicals on turkeys and really saw just how it just ripped them apart.
Yeah.
And was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And then I started shooting them on deer, and it's really, really crazy.
Yeah.
But I will say too that I have shot deer with mechanical broadheads, and I've wounded them and never found them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you think, oh man, it makes such a great blood trail.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right if you hit them in the right spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
That was kind of my issue. I started out shooting mechanical too, and I shot a couple deer with it, but I never had a pass through.
Mm-hmm.
One time. They bled really good, and it really opened them up, but I think it's really good to have 2 holes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I switched to fixed, and I just blew right through the last buck that I shot, just zipped it right through.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, well, maybe I just keep shooting fixed. But the thing is, the hole that was through it was not very big. Bled really good still, but I mean, I absolutely 10-ringed it. So it's like, take that and then not hit it kind of marginally. I don't know.
See, that's what's interesting about this whole conversation, and there's bow hunters that are long gone, 6 feet under, that if they heard this conversation, they would just be rolling in their grave.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's what comes to mind for me, even as we're talking about this. The thing I will say is, when it really boils down to it, whether it's a fixed blade or a mechanical, what you really need to focus on more than about what broadhead you're shooting is understanding and knowing where that arrow needs to be.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you put the arrow in the right spot, you could shoot a field point.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was much better said than mine, but that's exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, it bled really good and stuff, but like I hit it really good. It's like, if you hit it back, like maybe having more cutting diameter would have helped in that situation,
Yep. And I think that's sometimes that was kind of my hesitation with going to mechanical broadheads over fixed broadheads was penetration. That's what it was for me.
Exactly.
Because again, with a recurve bow, I shot a fixed blade broadhead and would pass through with a recurve bow, shooting 50 pounds, 45, 50 pounds. You know what I'm saying? I was passing through with a recurve, 50 pounds, excuse me. I was passing through 48, 50 pounds. I was passing through with a recurve with a fixed blade broadhead. And so when I started shooting a compound, I was like, well, geez, I'm just gaining all this speed. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And it was like really just ripping
Piling
through them.
through, yeah.
Oh yeah. Like pulling them out of the dirt,
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And, when I've switched now to mechanical, that was kind of when I was like, man, I don't know about the penetration part. But again, I started with turkeys and saw, again, I got some pass-throughs on turkeys. And then
with the mechanical.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep. And like we have that on video last year of that mechanical.
Yeah.
That it kind of barely stuck out the other end, and when it jumped up, it flinged it out.
Whipped it out, yeah.
Yep. And so And when I switched to mechanicals on deer, I was getting pass-throughs too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and again, it does make the cutting diameter is the enticing part.
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly.
geez, man, I can just get such a cut, you know? And I will say that there were times with my recurve and with a compound, when you shoot them with a fixed broadhead, you know, even when you hit them, if you hit them right, they're going to bleed. You know what I mean? But sometimes on a less than perfect shot, sometimes you don't get as good of a blood trail.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that's the way that it just used to be.
Right.
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah.
But I will say too, the thing about mechanicals that can be a little tricky. Well, how do I say this? The thing that I don't like about mechanicals is that I feel like sometimes people lean too hard on, well, it's such a great cutting diameter. You know what I mean? That maybe they take less than appropriate shots.
Yeah.
They take marginal
Yeah,
shots
yeah.
or low percentage shots.
Right.
That's you've heard me say that
Yeah.
before. Like, man, that's just, to me, that's a low percentage shot.
Yeah, yeah.
A frontal shot is a very low percentage shot, in my opinion. You know, I like a broadside quartering away shot.
Right.
Quartering two, like, man, I like broadside leg forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, so if I can get broadside, if I can get I spit on the mic. If I can get quartering leg forward, oh baby, here we go.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is just like we were talking about this before the podcast. Again, looking at golf and bow hunting, maybe that's an odd comparison, but I heard somebody say a while back that golf is like a V. And the difference between good golfers and bad golfers is that the V, which is their variable of miss
Yeah.
on a bad golfer, is really, really big.
Yeah.
And on a good golfer, their variable of miss is just so small.
Right.
You follow me? And I think that's one of the things about bow hunting. Like as you shoot more and more and you gain skill and experience, that variable of miss just really starts to shrink down.
Yeah.
You follow me? But even when your variable of miss is very small and you're zinging them right in there, that deer can take a half step.
Yeah.
The only thing that you can control is to when you let the arrow go. After that, everything after that you can't control.
Yeah.
And so what I don't like about mechanical broadheads is when things don't go right.
Yeah.
You follow me? Because inevitably sometimes things go wrong.
Yeah.
And that's where I think fixed broadheads really shine because you do get the penetration. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think when you look back 20, 30, 40 years before now, that's what everybody was so dead stuck on was penetration.
Yeah.
That no matter what happened, I was going to penetrate.
Yeah.
Even if if it took a half step or my variable for that miss was a little off, I hit it back, I hit it high, I hit it low, I was still going to penetrate through it. I was going to get 2 holes, allowing it to bleed on both ends.
Yeah.
You follow me? And I think sometimes that is lost on the modern day bow hunter.
Yeah. Yeah.
You follow me?
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Definitely.
And I don't mean this as a knock towards you, but when I hear you saying that type of stuff, I don't hear you saying that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, talking about 2 holes, talking about penetration,
Yeah.
talking about having 2 places where they bleed from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what fixed blades allow you to do.
Yeah.
Mechanicals, yeah, they'll bleed real good, but you might not get diddly for penetration.
Yeah.
And you might not get 2 holes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Allowing it to bleed.
Yep.
You know? So I don't know. It's funny because I say all this and I shoot mechanical broadheads.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the thing too, though, is like, I guess the thing that I would like to say is I shoot mechanicals respectfully,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like mechanical broadheads for me, it's like electricity or like heights. Like I know enough about electricity not to mess with it. And I know enough about heights, like not to like fall. You know what I mean? I respect them.
Yeah.
I respect mechanical broadheads, but I shoot them respectfully in the fact of like, I try to take high percentage shots because I feel like there are some disadvantages to them.
Yeah.
Do you follow me?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
that's why for me, like I said, I've been really fortunate. I've shot a couple Alaska Yukon moose and I took a fixed blade broadhead on that.
Yeah.
When I went to Idaho last year with you,
Right.
I was shooting a fixed blade broadhead.
Yep.
You know, I have friends that I worked with in Colorado that live in Utah and different places that still guide to this day that will not allow mechanical broadheads.
Yeah.
You're coming on an elk hunt, don't bring mechanical broadheads.
Yeah.
It's like you're not going to get out of the truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bring a fixed blade broadhead. I've seen mechanical broadheads fail
Yeah.
and not do what they were supposed to do when it looked like it hit the right spot. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. No, yeah.
and so that's the thing. When things go wrong, that's where fixed blades shine.
Yeah, exactly. And I
so-
think another thing too that
Did any of that make sense? Or
yeah,
did
it
I
did.
just like
it did for sure. And I'm going to try and build off it a little bit here. I think another thing too that's really nice about the fixed blades is it's reliable. Like you just know it's there. Like you don't got to worry about blades coming out of the collar and stuff like that. You hit a tree limb or something, it's going to stay intact. Whereas if you shoot it with a mechanical, it can kick the blade out, hit the deer bad or whatever. So I think that's another kind of really good pro to the fixed blade. It's just, it's there. You don't got to worry about crawling through brush if you're on an elk hunt or something and catching your mechanical on a thing of brush and having it open up and you not knowing and stuff like that. So I think that's another reason why a lot of people choose to shoot a fixed blade.
Well, I think the other thing, it's interesting because I feel like the other thing I was going to mention that this has really made a comeback in the last few years. And I think it's can be contributed to iron will broadheads.
Yeah.
Dude, when I was a traditional bow hunter, and again, learning traditional bow hunting from just, reading stuff from Fred Bear, reading stuff from Howard Hill, just their old journals, and even reading stuff from guys in the 80s, or, Fred Bear was in the 80s too, but like in the 90s and the 2000s, what they hung their hat on is a sharp broadhead.
Yeah.
Like a broadhead that when you pulled out your quiver, you were careful.
Yeah.
Because that thing would slice your finger. I personally have never held a mechanical broadhead that I felt like was going to slice my finger.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I'm just saying.
I agree.
And it's funny. It's not, I don't mean it's funny like in a disrespectful way, but iron will broadheads have made this huge surge.
Yeah.
There's all these guys shooting iron will broadheads, and there are all these guys talking about sharpness, and I'm sitting here going, yeah, that's been a thing for like 50, 60 years.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's not something new, but it kind of, I feel like, got forgotten
Yeah.
with, I don't know, not a generation, but like just a certain amount of years of bow hunters just kind of like forgot about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you watch any iron will videos, if you talk to anybody that shoots them, they're sharp. They're sharp out of the box, but you can make them even sharper.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'll be the first to tell you, man, it was just my mom, my sister, and I growing up. I pretty much kind of just taught myself for the most part how to hunt. I don't know how to sharpen a knife.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not very good at it. Like, I've tried it and I've dulled them. I go to a ceramic. That's what I like to sharpen on because you don't ruin an edge on a ceramic.
Yeah.
I'm not good at getting the exact right angle for an edge.
Right.
But man, you look at iron will broadheads and how sharp they get them and how sharp guys get. I have friends. I got a buddy from Wisconsin that's shooting iron will broadheads.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are sharp.
Yeah.
He kind of comes from that quote unquote old school mentality
definitely.
of a real sharp broadhead. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that's, when you talk to guys that really hang their hat on a sharp broadhead, they look at mechanicals and go like, man, those things are like dull as a spoon, man.
Yeah.
I'm shooting that. Like that. You're like, can you run your finger across it? If you run your finger across like this, you can cut yourself. And most of the time you can't.
No.
You run your finger across a sharp broadhead like that, and you better be trying to find some Band-Aids.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, the thing too of it is like, I take my mechanicals and I'll take the blades out and go and put them on my ceramic, try to sharpen them better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just, and again, any broadhead pulling it in and out of your quiver, because the reality is, man, I probably pull my arrows in and out of my quiver way more than I draw my bow back.
Yep. 100%.
And so they just naturally dull.
Yeah.
They just dull.
Well, and think about it too, sitting in plastic packaging, going through shipping and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, there's probably a dumb way to think about it, but it probably does dull it pretty good over time.
Well, not only that, but the other thing is we talk about sharpness. You talk about steel, the quality of steel. The fixed blades that I use are S30V steel. It's a hard steel.
Yeah.
Iron will broadheads uses I think they use S30V or 154 CM or D2, which is
Yeah.
a tooling steel, super, super hard.
Yeah.
Can be kind of hard to sharpen too.
Right.
But man, when you get an edge on it, it's going to hold that edge.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't show me a mechanical broadhead that's advertising that they use S30V steel.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the mechanical broadhead I use has a titanium ferrule.
Yeah.
You know, titanium is very strong. Da 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 da. But again, so it's just there's just things that like, you know, if we had this conversation with somebody from 1970 or 1980, and we were like, yeah, we've got this fixed blade and we've got this mechanical, it wouldn't even be a choice. It'd be
Yeah.
like fixed blade all the way.
Right.
But it's 2024.
Right.
And so, yeah, like I said, to each his own. I hope that I've thoroughly confused everyone because I'm trying to be objective. I'm trying to toe the line.
Yeah.
I don't know. How does it sound like how I've been? Because I feel like with the
Sounds
way,
great.
okay. Because I don't know if I'm making it sound like I'm a fixed guy or mechanical guy. I'm just trying to say both sides of
Yeah.
it.
No, not at all. I think it's been fine.
But yeah, I mean, I think if you held a gun to my head and said I had to wrap it up in less than 30 seconds, I would say focus on making sure you put the arrow where it needs to be.
Yep.
Only take high percentage shots,
Mm-hmm.
broadside, quartering away, focus on that leg forward. If you do that, whatever broadhead you shoot, it'll do its thing.
Yeah.
If you're the type of person that your variable of miss, I just completely made that up earlier, but if your variable of miss is really, really big,
Yeah.
then I don't know. Mechanical broadheads, yeah, it can rip a hole, but it's not most likely, especially on those misses, isn't going to rip it out both sides.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. Or again, the other problem is on a Vitals, there's a shoulder blade. You know what I mean? Like now we did that last year. We have that video of that doe that I shot high in the shoulder and I ripped right through her shoulder, stuck in the other shoulder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that can happen.
Yeah.
I've done that multiple times on deer where I've ripped through a shoulder blade with a mechanical.
Yeah.
But like you said, teach his own.
Yeah, exactly.
That was more than 30 seconds.
That's fine. All right. Next one. Doozy here.
Well, I have a feeling this is going to be kind of a piggyback off of what we just talked
Yeah.
about,
Yeah, it will be.
which is I kind of had a hard time not even bringing that up in the last one.
Yeah. All right. Here it is.
Okay, here it is.
Okay, here it is. Okay, here we go. Come on now. Here we go. Come on now.
All right. Next one we're going to talk about is heavy arrow versus light arrow. I'll say mine really, really quick and let Cole elaborate. I think you should shoot a lighter arrow over a heavy arrow. I think that with the faster shooting arrow, your gapping between yardage is going to be a lot tighter, which I think is key. I think with a heavier arrow, the drop off can make it kind of tough. I think you probably be a little bit less accurate. Let's see here. I think that the difference between a real heavy arrow and a lighter arrow, I think the difference in, I guess you could call it penetration, FOC, I think it's too minor to justify going to a way heavier arrow. Take it away.
Okay.
How did I do?
You did great.
Thanks.
No. Okay, so just to clarify on a couple things before we get too far into it, just so we make sure we're straight on this. When you say FOC, okay, what that actually means is forward of center.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can have a heavy arrow and not have a bunch of FOC. Do you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
You can have a light arrow and have a lot of FOC. Do you follow me?
Yeah.
So think about it this way. If I had a 2x4 and on the front of that 2x4, I duct taped a golf ball. That 2x4 does not have a bunch of FOC. If I threw that 2x4 at you like a javelin, it's going to hit you and it's going to hurt because a 2x4
Yeah.
like hitting you or stabbing you is not going to feel good.
Yeah.
But that golf ball is not going to like make it hurt as much.
Yeah.
If I took a bowling ball and I somehow taped it to the front of a 2x4 and then I threw that 2x4 at you like a javelin, that 2x4 has got a ton of FOC.
Got it.
Do you follow me?
Yep.
Let's just use 500 grains as a number.
Yeah.
Okay, talking about the bowling ball or the golf ball at the front. if I have a 500 grain arrow with a light field tip or a broadhead at the front of it, with a very weak spined arrow, that's FOC is going to be very low.
Yeah.
If you have a really, really heavy broadhead, well, then you're going to create a lot of flex. You're going to have a stiffer arrow.
Right.
It's kind of hard to get a stiff light arrow, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so that's going to be more of your forward of center, your high FOC. That's when guys talk about that. They're talking about, but what I'm saying is you could also have, you could have the light broadhead, light arrow. That's not much FOC. You can have a bunch of weight on the front and light arrow. That's not much, that's a lot of FOC. Or you can have a heavy arrow and a really, really heavy, you can have a heavy tip and a really, really heavy arrow, and now your FOC is not as much.
Yeah.
Do you follow me?
Yeah.
So I think sometimes guys get that all confused.
Yeah.
I'm all about FOC because again, or the other thing is if you put that bowling ball on the other end of the 2x4 and you threw it at you, it's not going to hurt as much.
Yeah,
It's still
yeah.
going to hurt because it's got a lot of weight to it.
Yeah.
But not as much as if it was on the front. Do you follow
Right.
me?
Yep.
And so you can have a heavy arrow, but not a lot of the FOC on the front. You follow me?
Yep.
My experience with all this comes from traditional bow hunting,
Yeah.
which is funny. This is everything that traditional bow hunters, you have to think about this.
Yeah.
This is understood. You just know.
Yeah.
It's funny how, again, it kind of things go in waves and go in cycles. Now all of a sudden this FOC and heavy arrow and blah, blah, blah. Now lighter, faster arrow, that's becoming a thing. And it's this new thing that no one's ever talked about. Hey, newsflash, it's been talked about.
Yeah.
It's been talked about so much. There's been probably hundreds of books written on it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Guys that have lived and died and then lived and died and then lived and died. There's generations and generations of bow hunters that have had this discussion. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
We haven't reinvented the wheel.
Yeah.
Sorry to pop your bubble if you think
Yeah.
you did, but you didn't. I'm just getting mad now. It frustrates me though, because I think that, I don't know. Anyway, sitting on my soapbox. Here's my 2 cents. Okay. When I was in college, I worked at a sports shop. Okay. I went to Iowa State University. I worked in a sports shop. There happened to be a guy that worked in there, young guy going to college, actually grad school, getting his master's degree in physics. Well, we just got to talking, and not a bow hunter in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But I had all these ideas about aerodynamics.
Yeah.
Let's just call it that, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? About how arrows work, and things that they do and don't do. And we were working together, and somehow one day we got talking about physics, and the conversation went to, I'm like, hey, I've got an idea. I'm like, would you be interested in trying to help me put the science and the physics behind these theories that I have about, aerodynamics
Yeah.
and how arrows work? And he's like, absolutely. He was all about it. Dude, this guy wrote a paper. I still have the paper. It's actually really, really cool. And so we talked about it this day at the sports shop. The next week he went in and talked to his professor that was doing his grad stuff with, and asked him hey, can I interview him and get his thoughts on this and then try to either, help him figure out what's actually right and wrong based on the science. 'Cause he's got his own experience and what he's learned and stuff. And can I put the physics behind it? And the professor was like, absolutely. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So we did this whole thing. And he was a really smart guy. Wrote up this really, really interesting paper. Most of it I couldn't understand. But the part that really stuck with me, and the part that, I'm saying this a lot today, but the thing that I hang my hat on with it is that when it comes to weight is like a bell curve, okay? Starts over here at 0. 0 is very inefficient. 100 is peak performance. 0 over here is inefficient.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to arrow weight and how that arrow performs, it starts at 0, and that's 0 grains. If you have a 1 grain arrow, good luck. Okay. That's 0. And then it goes up to the top, peak performance, and then it comes back down over here, back to 0 again. You follow me? So what all the stuff that we talked about and things that I believe, you have to find yourself in that sweet spot.
Yep.
Do you follow me? If you're over to the left of the sweet spot, you're not efficient enough. And if you're to the right of the sweet spot, you're too efficient. You follow me? And interestingly, at that time, I was a recurve guy. I was shooting a crazy heavy arrow.
Yeah.
Dude, I was shooting a 50-pound recurve with like a 650 grain arrow, dude. I mean, like, which is heavy, right?
Yeah.
And at the time before that, it was even heavier.
Yeah.
I mean, there's different traditional bow hunting like retailers that you can buy stuff from. You can buy 240 grain tips. You can buy inserts for your arrow so that can make your FOC even more on the front, right? Because you can, and there's companies out there that make 200 grain broadheads, single bevel, broadheads. And so I did all that. I shot heavy stuff. I was like, oh man, baby, here we go. And I went down that rabbit hole. But interestingly, what I learned was that it's a bell curve. And where I really fell with my weight and everything like that, like, dude, this guy did stuff with like gelatins and like he knew like the physics and all of it and, gravity and velocity and mass and blah, 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 blah. It was interesting. What I found out is that I was over to the right.
Yeah.
It was too efficient.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was like I was already past the peak. You follow me? I had gone too far. And I didn't, and I had gone so far because I was so afraid to be on the left side of the curve. Do you follow me?
Yep.
And so what he taught me is that I could lighten my arrow and create more efficiency,
Yep.
within that arrow. So to kind of rewind, because I kind of told the end before the beginning a little bit, but one of the things about weight and what a lot of the guys on the right end of this, they always hang their hat on is that you have velocity and you have mass, okay? When you talk about like kinetic energy, you follow me? So velocity is speed, okay? When you let your arrow go, the minute that arrow gets out of the bow, it starts slowing down. You follow me? It's not going to gain any more energy.
Right.
You have potential energy, the energy that when you draw the bow back, right? And then you have potential and then you have what? Kinetic energy, right? So potential energy when you draw the bow back, kinetic energy when you let the arrow go.
Yep.
As soon as you let the arrow go, it's not going to gain any more energy.
Yeah.
Do you follow me? If anything, it starts to slow down.
Yeah, it's going to lose it.
It loses it because of gravity. It loses it because of, the wind, because of the air.
Air hitting it, yeah.
All of it. It just slows it down.
Yeah.
But the reality is that you don't lose mass. Your arrow leaves your bow with 500 grains of mass and it hits the target with 500 grains of mass.
Right.
You follow me? So that's where a lot of these guys from a traditional bow hunting side and a long time ago, that's what they hung their hat on. I was like, well, dude, you lose speed, but you don't lose mass. You keep it the whole time. The mass is what carries you through. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of truth in that. You follow me? But I also don't want my arrow to look like a rainbow. You follow me? Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
And so the other interesting thing about that he explained to me, and it's something that's so like elementary and obvious now is, one of the rules and laws of science is for every force, there's an equal and opposite force.
Yeah.
Do you follow me?
Yep.
So think about it this way. If I stood on the edge of a pool and I jumped in the water, you just slide right in. You follow me? Because there's very little force pushing back on you. If I went to the high dive and I jumped in, when you hit the water, you kind of feel it more because every force there's an equal and opposite force.
Yeah.
When you go 10 stories up and you jump off, all of a sudden that water feels like concrete.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, why is that? Because for every force, there's an equal and opposite force.
Yeah.
Do you follow me? So, and again, that is one of the things where guys, when it came to mass, they were like, well, for every force, there's an equal opposite force. So I need that mass to carry me through. Yeah, but it's hitting back at you just as hard.
Exactly. Yeah.
You follow me? And so, and again, I think what I've learned is that I don't need to shoot a 600-700 grain arrow.
Yeah.
I can shoot something in 300 grains. You know what I mean? Way, way lighter.
Yeah.
I shoot my arrow setups light enough that guys on the heavy side, they're like, oh my gosh, like holy cow. But I'll tell you what, the thing is what I've seen in my experience taught me after getting to hang out with this guy, talk about the physics of it, is that like, I don't need all that. I'm just trying to get inside this curve here.
Yep.
Do you follow me?
Yep.
And again, even if you just take all the science away, what I've seen is that, dude, I shot a Alaska Yukon moose. The first moose I shot it, the first shot at 15 yards broadside with a 60-pound bow with a light arrow. Okay, light. Like light. I don't even remember the grains, but it was light.
Yeah.
Guy that used to work here, Bergie, helped me set it up, and he had light arrows, and they were light. Okay? That moose buried in it, hit it right behind the shoulder, buried it up to the fletching. Ran out in some water, stood at 30 yards, ranged it again, standing quartering away, shot it again, buried the arrow in it, quartering away, hit the opposite shoulder. When we went to field dress the moose, I opened up the chest cavity, and you could see my lighted nock just glowing inside the chest cavity and stuck in the opposite shoulder. That's a 60-pound bow with a light arrow.
Yeah.
So you can do it.
Yeah.
You know, the next moose I shot it at 5 yards, right behind the shoulder, stuck out the opposite side. You know what I mean? Like just like heart shot, buried it.
Yeah.
I've shot a lot of deer
Yeah.
with light arrows. And so, you know,
What are you at right now? Didn't we weigh them last year and weren't you at like 408?
maybe it was right at 400.
I think it was 408, but I think that's still heavier than what you shot your moose with though.
Yeah, the moose was, I think it was like 360 or 370.
That's exactly what came to my mind.
Yeah.
when you
And
brought
again,
that
it's
up.
funny because I now shoot. And again, if you don't know who this guy is, it's worth a Google. He's got a really cool website. There's tons of stuff on YouTube that you can watch, and you will go down the rabbit hole. So if you do, I apologize. Guy named Dorge. He owns a company called Fire Knock. Dorge is in the camp of heavy arrows.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
I thought he was in the.
Well, he's kind of come around, but when I first met him a couple years back, however many years back,
Yeah.
I was looking to go lighter, and I didn't like my knock setup, and I was really debating about fletching and just how I was doing things. And I got to talking to him, and I ended up switching to his kind of knock system and his fletching system.
Yeah.
But he was very adamant about a heavy arrow. And at that time, I was calling Easton and Victory and companies like that and trying to say like, hey, can I get a real light spined arrow? And at that time, they didn't have a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
Now they've come out with a ton of light spined arrows, but at that time, it wasn't much out there. And so to use and trying to kind of find a compromise with what I wanted and what George was suggesting, and I trust him.
Yeah.
I ended up shooting a little bit heavier arrow. So right now I'm shooting like I said, it was like 400 something.
408, yeah.
It's funny because I don't even really keep track of that because I've been shooting this setup for so many years
exactly.
that I'm just so happy with it.
Yeah, it works great.
Oh
Works good.
man, there's nothing to change. Like
Yeah,
I don't need to
exactly.
keep trying to tinker. I don't feel like
Yeah.
until something, I don't know what, I just feel like this, I found my sweet
Yeah,
spot
definitely.
within my arrow setup.
Definitely from how the arrow flies, it's quiet.
Oh man,
it's-
doesn't make
yeah.
a noise.
Yeah, exactly.
When we go to the range, you hear people walk up.
Yeah.
We've had guys walk up and they're like, all right, man. Like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
they're like, what's up with that? I'm like, what's up with what? Like, your arrow doesn't make a noise.
Yeah.
Like, it leaves the bow, you don't hear nothing.
Yeah. I mean, we both shoot right around 70 pounds. I think you're just a skosh heavier than mine on draw weight.
Yep.
I shoot like a 430 grain arrow. You shoot closer to 400. So we're pretty much shooting the same thing. I think I have a little thicker diameter arrow, maybe.
Yeah, I think yours is 1 millimeter bigger than
I
mine.
think so. But you listen to both of us shooting, it's like a clear difference. Mine
Yes.
whistles really bad.
Whistles and buzzes.
And yours, it's a tack shooter.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yep. But again, sticking to the whole mass thing, like I said,
Yeah.
I have gone lighter. And even years ago, before I met George, we ran into some of the guys from Matthews, talking to the guys from Matthews, and they're like, yeah, man, we don't shoot heavy arrows.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's a point of diminishing return. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. And so again, I don't think it's necessary. Again, I like the idea of a flatter shooting arrow.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the idea of shooting farther. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like I found that sweet spot where I still know that again, there are advantages if you're shooting a 700 grain arrow, that mass is going to carry it through. But by the time that arrow gets there, that animal might not be there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yep.
and just to know that 700 grain arrow, man, it's heavy, but it's going like this when mine's just going woof.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
And, like I said, so that's my 2 cents. Again, you don't lose mass and there's something to be said for that. But I think at a certain point, it's a diminishing return.
Yeah.
And I think you need to try to find yourself somewhere in the in-between.
Yeah.
You don't want to be so light that, the arrow feels like it's just bouncing off stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
But the other thing to do too, and I think this should be said, is if you go to an archery shop and you're looking at arrows and you're looking at doing stuff, a lot of times those shops have a bunch of different weighted field points.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at some arrows that you want to shoot, just ask them hey, out of curiosity, can I put a couple different tips in and look at your penetration?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I noticed you see me when we went to the shop last year, I grab the arrow right at the end, I pull it out and I look, and then I looked at yours and I'm penetrating just fine.
Just as much.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. And so, there's just little things like that you can try. Just go buy some heavier points, lighter points.
Yeah.
This is the time of year to kind of think about that stuff. And again, I'm not saying be irresponsible.
Yeah.
Going so light that it's just like, man, I'm shooting the same pin out to 40. That's not good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's going to be some sort of drop.
Yeah, exactly.
But and then to go back on what you said earlier, I wanted to say this too. You're talking about the FOC, but you were talking about your pin gaps.
Yeah.
You're 100% right that when you shoot a faster arrow, your pin gaps are going to be smaller.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've done to try to combat that, because I don't like my pins being touching. That's so hard.
Yeah.
That's what you're describing. I'm oh.
Yeah, no,
you
exactly.
So one of the things that I do is I shoot my sight very far out there.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of target archers, those guys shoot their sights way out there. And the reason for that is the farther out you push it, the more of the gap you're going to create.
Yeah.
And in theory, the more accurate it's going to be.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yep.
So if I took my sight and I pulled it all the way in super close, my pins would be
They'd be touching.
oh, super close,
Yeah.
which I don't like that.
Yeah.
I like to be able to see a little gap between them. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's why I push my sight out a bit farther.
Yeah.
And actually, I used to have it even farther. I brought it in just a skosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my whole thing is I think you need to find a sweet spot. I think that again, if you're a traditional bow hunter, or if you're somebody that you're like, man, I can't pull 70 pounds. That's okay. If you're shooting a recurve at 50 pounds, you're shooting a compound at 60, that's okay. And again, I shot light arrows out of my recurve bow, towards the last couple of years of my recurve time, and was blowing through stuff and was just shooting a lot flatter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I would say that if you're worried about it, it's okay to add a little bit of weight, but you don't have to go to this extreme.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just feel like that's just overkill.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Nope.
You're going to win the race. Do you need to win by a mile?
Yeah.
Winning's winning. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? You don't need to be way over here. It just seems kind of unnecessary.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially when you could shoot flatter and farther and still get the punch that you need.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting because the other thing to do is just get online and watch some interesting comparisons when you're talking about rifles and bullets and weight and everything else.
It's all the same thing, really.
It's all the same thing, except in a way faster. Obviously, we're talking about 3,000 feet per second. We're talking they're really, really speeding out there.
Yeah.
But look at a 308 and then look at a 6.5 PRC. A 308, you can only, it's a heavier bullet, right? A lot of times it's just only going to be able to go so far.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? And before you're just lobbing it forever. And even though you have the weight, you're losing so much velocity, then you lose your kinetic energy.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yep.
And so it's the same type of thing.
Right.
So it's and that's the other thing that I would say too, is what I've noticed with light versus heavy is especially on I guess I can't, let's say this again, this part is really just based on my own opinion. because I never really shot a heavy arrow out of a compound. But it's almost like you think about your effective range. And I feel like with a lighter arrow, my effective range has become greater
Oh, for sure.
because I'm shooting flatter and
Yeah,
farther.
without a doubt.
You follow me? With a
Yeah.
heavier arrow, yeah, it's heavy, but you're just lobbing it in there.
Lob it
And by
in
the time
there.
it gets there, it's lost so much.
Yeah.
You know what I
More
mean?
time for something to affect it too. That variance is just going to get bigger.
So anyway, that's where I come from. Again, trying to be objective, to each his own.
Yeah.
If you really, really want to, dive into this, go on, there's a bunch of traditional websites out there, magazines like Traditional Bow Hunter. There's a lot of guys that have talked about this for a long, long time.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden kind of like really emerged again.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think it's nothing new.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you go, well, how do I know? Like, how do I know if I'm on one spectrum or the other?
Yeah.
How do I know if I'm way too heavy? Well, if you're at 700 grains, you're too heavy.
Yeah.
Newsflash, if you're at 600 grains, unless you're shooting like 80 pounds,
Yeah.
you're probably a little heavy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, again, if you're going to Africa and you're shooting a Cape buffalo or a giraffe or something where you're shooting through bone, for sure, like that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I would say that you could tell if you're too far on the light end, and unfortunately, we've seen this at the archer range here in town. Guys go up and they stand on the line and they shoot their bow and it sounds like a banjo.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a real great, that can be an indicator, that there may be something loose or vibrating on your bow. But also, the heavier your arrow, the more kinetic energy is getting into the arrow. You
Yeah.
follow me?
Yep.
Which endo factos make your bow quieter.
Yeah.
Do you follow me? So when your arrow is super duper light, not all the energy is going into that arrow. It's going back into the bow.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
follow
Yep.
me? It goes back in the bow. It goes back into your arm. It goes back into your shoulder. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And so a lot of times if there's a guy that walks up and he's shooting and his bow just sounds like, it's like, burn. It's like, sounds like a really, really out of tune guitar chord.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like you just grab your arm like, oh yeah, dude, that thing is light.
Yeah.
That has a light
It's
arrow.
almost like dry firing the bow.
Exactly. The energy has got to, you're trying to put as much of it into that, as much of it within reason into that arrow. And so if that arrow is super duper light, it's going back into the bow.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's another way that you can tell if you're shooting super light setups is if you just hear your bow just making a ton of noise.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you will hear your bow, like those guys that are shooting 700 grain arrows, man, their bows are quiet.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's all going in there.
Yeah.
But again, it's just for what?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Just to say you got that heavy of an arrow?
Yeah.
I don't know. But again, and here's the thing, I may be completely wrong on a lot of this stuff. This is just this is my experience with it, and this is what I've learned. And this is after I've done a ton of reading, a ton of research pre-YouTube.
Yeah.
Right? Like this is just me reading magazines and buying books and trying it myself and seeing what would happen and having conversations with guys that have done it a lot longer than I have.
Yeah.
The guys that I really respect, the guys that I know that are killing a bunch of stuff, shooting lightweight setups.
Yep.
We're shooting lightweight setups and everybody else is just shooting heavier stuff.
Yeah.
And when you ask them why, they're like, man, dude, it just shoots so flat and I still do what it needs to do. Like, why?
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway. Yeah, man, we better just end this thing because I could keep talking for another 2 hours about all sorts of stuff when it comes to bows.
Yep.
But I think, again, weight of your arrow, what type of broadhead you're shooting, just your arrow setup this is a great time of year to be thinking about that stuff because you're better off thinking about it in June than trying to think about it in October.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you walked into any archery shop and ask how many guys are walking in June talking about arrow setup, unfortunately, it's probably not a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Very true.
You know what I mean?
That's very true.
Like you ask them when those guys get the busiest, when they sell the most arrows, it's in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I buy arrows towards the end of the summer because I already have my arrow set up already ready.
Yeah.
So I already know what I need. I just need to get a few more, get a dozen or extra so I have some.
Exactly.
But if you're kind of playing with stuff, this is the time of year to be playing. Don't be playing in October, November.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yep.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
Another podcast in the books. Ozonics Killings Podcast. That's Nick. I'm Cole. Thanks for watching.
See you next week.
Stay classy. Hey, stay classy.